Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? It's Wednesday. The week is half over. We're almost to the weekend, so that's super exciting. I hope you guys have been having a great reading week. First, let me say thank you to everyone who watched and commented on the partners tag that I did with my husband. That was really fun. He was nervous. He says he wasn't nervous, but he was nervous. And you guys were fantastic in your responses, so I really appreciate that very, very much. Today I'm coming to you with a video. I've done a couple videos where I've said 5 books by women you may have missed or you may not have heard of. Well, now I'm going to do 5 books by men that you haven't heard of or maybe missed. And then one that's kind of famous that I just want to throw in because I want to make sure that if you've read it, great, let's talk about it. If you haven't read it, I want to make sure it gets on your radar. So, I'm not sure you will have heard of many of these books, but I'm telling you, they are all worth a read. And the one that really spawned the idea of having this video, the book that I couldn't get out of my head that I wanted to tell you guys about, is The Lonely Polygamist by Brady Udall. This came out a few years ago, and he wrote the book The Miracle Life of Edgar Mint. I don't know if you guys remember that one, which that one did fairly well. But this book came out, and it had a lot of hype, but then kind of disappeared quickly. And it's a book that, it's not unflawed, but it definitely makes me think. I think about it all the time. It is a story of, let me get his name real quick, Golden Richards. He is a man that has 4 wives and I think 28 or 29 children. And it's kind of the idea that even though you're surrounded with people you love, and I don't think that the book ever doubts that he loves his wives, he has a sense of loneliness. And he goes out in search of how to kind of rectify that sense of loneliness. And he meets another woman and he starts a relationship with her. And it's this idea that being lonely may have nothing to do with the number of people around you. It may have something to do with something entirely different. The book is very well written. It is very introspective. It never judges anything that the main character does or any of the decisions he's made. It is really just an idea of a person that has so much in his life, so many people, so much love, but sometimes just still feels lonely. And I remember it for that exact sort of discussion point that it's having. So for me, that's why I really enjoyed this novel, The Lonely Polygamist. There's also some sections about his children and growing up in such a family with so many different moms and people and how they are sort of formed that I thought was really interesting. And I really liked it, and I don't think enough people know about it. So Brady Udall's The Lonely Polygamist, if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. The next book I'm going to tell you about is going to be, if you were a fan of Poppy and Dingham that I told you guys about, you're probably going to like this book a lot, and that is Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend by Matthew Dix. Now, I have met Matthew Dix a number of times. This is not the only novel that I have read by him, but I will say this is the one that sticks with me the most, and this is literally as the title says. This is the memoir of an imaginary friend. Budo, B-U-D-O, however you want to pronounce that, Budo. And it is the story of him dealing with coming to terms of himself as an imaginary friend with a little boy, and this is not a spoiler, who has autism. Budo realizes that most of the people or other imaginary friends that he's known have disappeared over time, but he has stayed around longer. And he realizes that because his friend is special and may need him a little bit longer. There's a lot of intrigue. Budo gets separated. He goes on his own adventure, comes to realizations about himself, comes to realizations about Max and how he can best help Max become the best person that he can be. Max is his real-life friend. The book is charming and endearing and just a really good book to read if you need someone's perspective on something you've never thought of before, but you wanna just feel sort of those warm fuzzies. Matthew Dix is a 3rd or 4th grade elementary school teacher, so he really understands the child aspect of the novel, and it was inspired, from what I remember, was inspired by a student he had that he felt really close to. So I really recommend Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend by Matthew Dix. I really hope that more people pick it up. I would say pick up a lot of Matthew Dix if you like this book, because a lot of his books have a similar feel, and they're very, very enjoyable. The next book I'm going to tell you about is The Less Than Perfect Legend of Donna Creosote by Dan Michlethwaite. And I'm just going to put that up there. And if you can see this. This is a book for people who have ever felt like outsiders for being a reader. It's a book for people who have dreamt about a house full of books. The main character, Donna, she's a little bit quirky. She's come into money, and basically her whole world is books. And like her bathroom floor is covered in books. There are books everywhere, and her imagination runs wild. And the only part I want to give away is that at the beginning of the novel, she decides that she's going to become a knight and go out and do good in the world. So she takes tinfoil and creates a knight set of armor and goes out to do good in the world. And it's about her coming to terms with what the world is and how it differs from the world that she's read about. It is charming and really fanciful and also very creative. So I think you'll really like this. This was shortlisted for the not the Booker Award, I think that's what it's called. It's the nominations that come after the Man Booker Prize, and that's where I heard about it from. It's published by Blue Moose, who has the cutest little, let's see if that will focus. So that's The Less Than Perfect Legend of Donna Creosote by Dan Michlethwaite, and I definitely think that you guys should pick that up. The next book is by an author that I've already told you guys a number of times about, and that is John Williams, and this is Augustus. This actually won the National Book Award, but I would say Stoner, my favorite book, which I've told you guys about a number of times, and Butcher's Crossing are his better two-known novels. Augustus really is the story of Caesar Augustus and his life. It is told in letters and journals, so it's epistolary in nature. You get to know a number of the characters or people from history around him. It is well researched. If you love Roman history, you will definitely enjoy this book. It will definitely paint a vivid picture for you. It will get you sort of, it has that political intrigue of what was going on during Caesar's reign. And everyone's in it. Let me see. It's Cicero's in it, Brutus, Cassius, Mark Antony, a young Octavius. So everyone is in it that you would expect in a Roman history book. But it's told by a brilliant storyteller. I'm telling you, John Williams wrote 3 novels that... He wrote a first novel, but he said never to read it. I've said that before to you. He wrote 3 novels that all 3 of them sit probably in my top 50 favorite books of all time. And so this is Augustus by John Williams, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for some really, really good historical fiction. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this one, but Did You Ever Have a Family by Bill Clegg. Now, Bill Clegg is actually a pretty famous nonfiction writer, and this is his first work of fiction. This is the story of a woman who, on the day of her daughter's marriage, there's a gas leak. She walks outside, the house explodes, and basically her entire family is killed. It's an investigation into how that occurred. It is the story of the mother, whose name I'm totally... June Reed. It's the story of her dealing with the grief of losing her family. It's the story of many other people and how they come to be part of June's life. And what the book brilliantly does is introduce you, then backtrack, give you history, so those people become very three-dimensional as they intertwine into the world of the main character. It's also about the family of the son-in-law that was to be and how they deal with the grief. June basically leaves. She gets in her car after it happens and she leaves, and no one knows where she went. And it is powerfully heartbreaking, and it really deals with grief, it deals with guilt, it deals with family, what that really means and who those people really are. It's beautiful. My book club read this book, and we all really, really enjoyed it. So that's Did You Ever Have a Family by Bill Clegg. And last but not least is the book I told you is by a very famous author. And maybe everyone has read it, but when I talk to people about David Mitchell, we normally talk about Cloud Atlas, The Bone Clocks, in that book. But I think my favorite David Mitchell is Cloud Atlas. But it is a fight with The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet. This book is fantastic historical fiction, and it is also his most straightforward narrative. It is set at the beginning of the 1800s. I think it starts as 1799 when the Dutch East India Company arrives in Japan to do trading. It is very educational about how Japan at that time dealt with outsiders, where they would let them, where they would not let them, how they would deal with trade, what special reasoning would let you actually go on to Japan. It was very rare, according to this book. And there's relationships, there's political intrigue, there's societal intrigue, there's a woman, there's a love triangle. It is so good, you guys. It's so good. I really recommend it. It's out in paperback now. It's been out for years. You can get it at a used bookstore. Actually, I think all of these are in paperback. All of these are available at the used bookstore, at your library. I think you can definitely get them. The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet will take you away. You will be in Japan. You will be lost. I promise. If you have not read it, it is worth every read. And I've said that about every single book because they are all that good. Someone made a comment that I say the word super a lot. I don't think I've said super until the end of this, so I'm super excited about that. And I really hope you guys all take one of these books and just add them to your list because they are so good, and I don't think that enough people have read them all. So there you go. 6 books. 5 you probably not have heard of, or maybe didn't hear of, or on your periphery. One that's a bit more famous. And I really, really hope you guys pick them up and you like this series. So until next time, happy reading. If you are a return subscriber, as always, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you like this video and you like the ones that are below. And I really, really, really wish you guys the best rest of the week, and I will talk to you soon. So until then, happy reading. Bye!